Hey guys, this is Andre here. Welcome to our show, whatever you want. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. And please welcome my guests here. It's Richard Shackleton from the UK. And
Hello.
it's Phila, and I'm sorry, I don't know how your last name is pronounced. Can you do that for me?
It's okay. It's Savoy. Good hello.
Cool, cool. And I actually see your image is too small here. Let me fix that. Right, we're good. Cool guys. So we're here today to talk about JS frameworks, JavaScript frameworks, front-end frameworks, however you want to call it, and to do a little bit of a fight, React versus Vue.js. It's gonna be a friendly fight. And it's great because Richard here, he's been a great contributor to the open source repositories of Kentico. He's been focused on React, while Phila has been very active with Gridsome and with Vue.js. But I'll let you guys to introduce yourself. Can we start with you, Richard?
Okay. So I work for Necrostruct as a web agency in Leeds as a UI architect. So responsibilities are leading the UI team and kind of working with the tech stack on the UI side. So primarily .NET based agency, but we use React kind of to enhance the projects we work on. More recently, I've started building Gatsby websites. So that's obviously pure React at that point.
Awesome, thanks for that. And Phila?
Yeah, so I'm an old school web developer. Have been working with web forever since the late 90s, and I mainly work with the backend stuff. But since 2016, I've been working with Vue as well, and lately I found Gridsome as well. So I currently do contracting and consulting and stuff like that.
Cool, cool. Thanks for your introduction. And what I wanted to say first is that I actually have experience with both of these platforms, with both Gatsby and Gridsome, with both React and Vue, and I've already done my personal website is actually built on Nuxt. So every website that I did is on a different platform. But I think that that the real experience is gonna be better coming from you because you actually work with those platforms on a daily basis. But first of all, what I actually wanted to talk to you guys about is I wanted to aim this video or this stream to the beginners because there's a lot of people who already work with React, who already work with Vue.js, and they all have their own opinions, you know, they either like or don't like the other platform, but when you position yourself in the beginner's shoes, like if you're coming from PHP, you're coming from .NET or whatever other platform, what kind of framework would you recommend? What would you start with if you wanted to go into the JS frameworks? Richard, what do you think?
See, I feel like at this point I should say React because I'm supposed to be arguing for React, but I'll be honest with you, the learning curve for React can be quite steep. Whereas from what I've seen with Vue, one of the advantages of it is that it's a relatively smooth learning curve. So I guess I'd probably say it depends on what they're wanting to get out of it in the long run. If they're wanting to just learn kind of a framework and kind of get to used to the notion of what is a front-end framework and actually how to work with one, then probably Vue is easy to get going with. But I feel like in the current industry, React is probably kind of more valuable to learn, or at least it'll probably open more doors kind of professionally if you were to learn React.
Mm-hmm. So what I always hate about learning new things is that I have to learn a new terminology, a new things that I don't know what they understand. Actually, I have a nice story about this. When I started doing university or going to university studying that, they were all saying something about semester, like semester here, semester there, and you have to do 1 semester, 2 semesters, and nobody ever told me or explained to me what is a semester. You know? So, Vila, are there any things that beginners actually coming to work with JS frameworks should know? Like, what is the thing that people wouldn't know and would be surprised by?
I don't know. It depends what's your level where you starting from, and I agree that Vue, as it might be a bit easier to get into when you're a beginner. I think more important is the environment where you are in. So if you, for example, if your school teaches React, it's obviously better to start learning that. But if, on the other hand, you, for example, have just got an internship in a company that worked with you, that obviously should steer you into the other direction. So I think it all depends very much on what do you what's your actual situation. And in the end, when you actually learn one, and when you learn JavaScript in general, it's very easy to hop into the other. So they're in the end they're really similar frameworks, and they're just tools like any other tools. And yeah, when you come get some more experience as a developer, you should learn other tools as well. So.
Okay, cool. Well, actually, for me, the biggest surprise when coming into the JS frameworks world, I was starting with vanilla JavaScript. You know, when we were doing the HTML stuff on high schools and so on, the JavaScript was used for things like confirm dialogues and other things. So the biggest surprise for me was that you can actually build your whole website just based on JavaScript. And my experience, or what I didn't like to do at first, was to use the CLI. And I think that you need to use the CLI with both Vue and Gatsby. Sometimes you also need to use Git as well. Richard, do you wanna introduce CLI and what that does for these frameworks?
I suppose it's just another tool, really. It's just another tool to be used to interact with the framework itself. I suppose the only real stuff that you need to use it for is kind of the setup. If you are cloning out a project, or if you're kind of bootstrapping up a new Gatsby project, for example, obviously you'll need to run the command line tools for that. If you're a beginner, though, you could use kind of a UI. I'm not quite sure off the top of my head, but I know there's kind of npm script tools built into VS Code that can kind of wrap around the CLI, so you don't necessarily need to understand how to use it. So kind of an absolute beginner coming in, the most basics you need to do is understand how to install dependencies and kind of initialize the actual framework you're working with. But again, all that should be covered in the documentation of whichever tool you're working with. So all being well, the learning curve there wouldn't be too much of an issue.
Does React have the similar version of Vue UI? So it's basically UI on top of the CLI?
I believe it does, but I don't think I've ever used it, so I'm not 100% sure on that one, to be quite frank with you.
That's a quite nice way of getting started. That was the way how I got started back in the day with Vue 2. So you just fire, when you first npm install Vue, then you can say Vue UI, and it launches the CLI version of, or the basic CLI functionality in a really pretty UI that you can work with your browser and install packages and stuff like that right from the browser. So it basically makes it a bit less daunting if you're beginner to the command line. But again, I think if you're a developer and want to be a developer, it's good to learn the CLI and the command line right away.
Absolutely. I mean, eventually you're going to have to tackle that.
Yeah.
And it underpins so much of development that it's definitely worth just picking that up and try and get to grips with it as soon as possible. Because I came from sort of self-taught .NET background, and I didn't even know what a CLI was until about 3 years into my job, which is a weird thing to say. But obviously, when you work with .NET, it was always Visual Studio. Everything was just done through Visual Studio, so it had an IDE from day one. So yeah, it was interesting when I suddenly realized that there's this whole world of kind of Node and JavaScript frameworks, npm, and I think back then Bower, let's not talk about power. But so yes, that was quite a learning curve back then. So I can kind of appreciate these days it's even more of a learning curve.
Yeah, I think it's a big bonus for larger tools like React and Vue is the standardization of the tooling. So when I started with Vue 1, the whole thing was a mess. So you had Grunt and you had Gulp and you had the Bower and you had stuff like that just for packaging stuff. And then you had NPM and then Yarn came to be and stuff like that. When you're a beginner, uh, uh, and you need to figure out that what should I use here and what should I use here. It's really good to have a well documented environment where you have this tool for this tool for this, and this is how you start. So that's I think a bonus for each of these frameworks.
Perfect. What I was wondering always is whether if let's say you're a beginner developer and you're looking for your first job as a developer, would you say that it's easier to get a job with React or it's easier with Vue?
I think it depends again. I think there might be more jobs like React jobs in the world, but again, it depends locally and it depends what kind of work you're looking after. And like back in the day, David Heinemeier Hansen used to say that you only need one service provider to host your site, and I think that's the same with the job as well. You only generally need one job, so there are plenty for both of them.
Okay. Richard, what do you think in your agency? Do you take both, or are you looking just for React developers?
Um, React knowledge would be a bonus because it's what we use as an agency. So obviously it means there's less kind of investment required to actually get them up to speed on what we work with. But if someone came to me with a solid CV with Vue or Svelte or Angular, maybe not an older Angular framework like the actual newer version, like that to me would still stand up because they understand the concepts and how to work with the client-side framework. They just need to then make the transition to what we work with day in, day out. At the same time, though, like they also offer unique advantages in that they have a different perspective from what we have internally. So they've worked with these other frameworks. They'll know the advantages of them. They'll know them more than we do because if we don't use them often, then inherently we're not going to pick up all the details. So they can kind of bring in and just say, oh, okay, so React does it like this, but Vue actually does like this, which is an advantage. And it can start to broaden our team's knowledge a bit more as well.
That's actually a big thing when you're just learning stuff, and when you're a younger developer, it's really good thing to actually try these things out for yourself. When you have time, just uh, try to build things with all kind of new tools and try to learn the landscape, because the more you know, the better developer you can become. And again, if if a company is looking for a Vue developer but you only know React, it's basically a weak job to learn the other framework. So it's not a big deal.
Cool. But what I've actually noticed is that most companies that at least I come in contact with are using React. We also in Kentico internally use React for our products, for at least some of the products, for the content product. But we also use Vue.js in one of your other projects. But I think that React has a preference in many of the developers within our company, which is funny because if you say that Vue.js is easier for beginners, and I personally prefer Vue.js, but over time people like React more, or why is it like that employers maybe prefer React before Vue? Is it because React is better for larger applications, or do you see any difference there?
I think it's mostly because React had a pretty good like lead in the beginning, and it's kind of a nobody got ever fired for buying IBM thing. So React is is backed with a huge company. Obviously, Vue is now really big thing as well, but 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, it was totally different thing. But again, I think it's really much it's a taste thing pretty much in my opinion. So some developers like other tools, and then there's like we mentioned already, Svelte and Angular and stuff like that. People like different things, and people have preferences. For companies, I think it's obvious to go with the biggest and most seen tool out there, because it's a safe choice.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think for us, when we were choosing kind of where to move from, like we originally, like back in the day, we used Knockout, and then we moved from that to Angular kind of version 1. And then the decision kind of came where it was like, right, do we move to Angular 2, or do we move to React? And I think at the time, Vue had kind of just started to become a thing, but it was still quite niche. So that was like a massive risk for us to kind of adopt that. And obviously, there wasn't a lot of developers out there who had any experience with that. So it also would have limited our options in recruitment as well. So we ended up just going with React on the basis of, as you said, it was kind of the first big one. Because even like Angular 2 was kind of following in the footsteps of React at that point. So yeah, I think it was a safe option for a lot of companies at the time.
I actually have a one note about that in the chat. As a noob to both, I found React to be a lower curve than Vue. I found that hard to believe.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Again, I think it's a taste thing. If you're used to some other kind of way of programming or different kind of templates, I think it might be that.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know kind of which did you actually try and tackle first? Did you go to React first, or did you go to Vue first? Because the thing with React is you've got to learn JSX and all the syntax that goes with that.
Yeah.
Whereas with Vue, you're sticking with kind of the 3 languages that everybody already knows.
Yeah, that's what I always disliked, that I had to learn new syntax of writing HTML, while when I was working with Vue and with Nuxt or with Gridsome, both of these actually use just standard HTML, which was easier for me to understand. So I was always struggling with React, how to do things. Mainly it was syntax issues, but still it was yet another thing I had to learn, and when you're learning new stuff, you have already a lot of things on your plate, so you don't want to go into too much of new stuff. Yeah, so I personally preferred Vue, because with Vue you just import the library, you just create the new instance, and you're done, basically. You can then just evolve,
For me, I've worked quite a lot with React in other companies, and for me the biggest thing was the JSX, which reminded me of doing PHP all over again, like putting mixing and matching the code with the layout. And I hate that. I've been so used to in the backend Django world, where you have clear separations of concerns with different kind of things, and Vue makes it really easy to do that. And obviously you can do both with both again, but React has this. I think it's pretty developer centric in a way. So if you are more of a UI guy, or more of a software end of the spectrum, I think you'll like Vue more.
All right, guys. So if we can land on the fact that for beginners it's easier to start with Vue, where do we start actually if we're beginners? So where do we go? Is that the Vue.js.org website or?
Yeah, I would go there. One thing I forget to mention, that back in the day, React docs documentation was horrible. It was just shit. So nowadays it's really good, as is Vue docs. So documentation is really important. Whatever tooling you are deciding to go on, if you're a new developer, I think a really good measure of the quality of the tool is the documentation. So you should really look at the documentation before making our mind for what new tool are you going to build with this new thing if you want to learn something new, because the documentation can make or break your developer experience pretty much. And it's really important to have good documentation.
Yeah, I agree to that. Whenever I was working with Vue, I found like I would say 90% of what I was looking for in the documentation. For the rest, you just go to Stack Overflow. So you always find an answer there. So that worked very nicely. It's also one of the reasons why I liked Gridsome more than Gatsby. Because whenever I needed to do something with Gridsome, the documentation was superb as well. And if I couldn't find something in the documentation of Gridsome, I would just go back into the Vue documentation and find it there. So
Interesting.
this was really great. Yeah. All right. So the Vue documentation leads. Would you say, Richard, that the React documentation is at the same level nowadays?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I did have a look through some of the Vue documentation earlier, and I think it's probably structured better. I think a beginner would have a little bit more of a hard time finding what they're looking for in the React docs.
Also, there's the scope of React is bigger, so obviously there is more documentation, so there's more to take in. That's a big thing when you're starting out.
Right. Guys, I seem to have a note here in the chat. Got a crazy echo in the guest voices. That's you, Ryan, I think. So let me actually fix that, and let me know if that gets any better. All right. I'm just gonna lower down the desktop audio here. Can you guys say something, Richard or Phila?
Test 1, 2, 3.
Check 1, 2.
So yeah, guys in the chat, can you let us know if the sound is okay now?
The choice of live broadcasting.
If someone's there, guys, let us know if the sound is okay now. Or if you hear just me, that's also fine. But I have to fix that then.
Communicate the medium of mine for the rest of it.
Yeah, nobody's responding. Maybe I think that we're still online.
Everything looks good on my side still.
Yeah.
So
I'm just gonna. So how is the sound now? Okay, chat works.
Yeah, it's not a Twitch stream if there isn't some technical difficulties.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
No, how is the sound now? No. The sound now is no.
No.
Yeah.
What's that? No. I don't know. We'll just continue, I guess, and hope that the sound is okay now. It should be. I see actually the levels of your sound. It's actually going up and down, so it should be fine. We'll see. If it isn't fine, guys, let me know in the chat. All right. So where did we stop? I think it was the end of Vue documentation. Yeah. So what I wanted to do now is the thing about the Vue UI. That was really interesting to me. What you said, Phila. How do I bring it up?
If you have Vue installed on your machine, so npm install Vue, or Vue CLI, I think it's Vue CLI you need.
Vue CLI? Let's see. Nope. Is it?
Sorry, I muted my microphone because there's hassle here. So go to cli.vue.org and you'll see the install instructions for that.
Okay.
And then when you have the CLI tooling installed, you just say Vue UI, and it pops up a
okay, here it is.
Browser for you.
So Vue provides CLI, blah blah blah. Going through the guide without any build tools before using the CLI. I did that. Okay, I'm gonna go there.
So it's probably the Vue package, I think.
Yeah, you're right. So I probably don't have it installed, so let me fix that. So npm install and G as
You
global.
you want to you probably want to install that as a global because you want to use it
Right.
from multiple places.
Yeah, okay. So I'll do that. So we're still getting an echo and
I'm in general happy of muting my microphone when I'm not speaking, so I'll try to do that at least.
so Richard, you tried to listen? What's the problem?
Now just hovering. If you hover over the microphone icon in Skype, it'll show you if your mic's picking anything up. So I was just checking to see if there's anything leaking out of the headphones onto the mic, but it doesn't look like it. Yeah, it's probably somewhere in OBS,
Okay.
I imagine.
Well, what I can do is just mute your NDI sources and just re-enable the desktop audio.
Yeah, if the Skype capture itself is bringing through audio and you've got two levels going, it's probably that. If you're piping it through the desktop audio, then you probably just want to capture that because it'll capture, in theory, anything that goes through the actual computer.
That's essentially what I want. So we'll see if this helps. Guys, let me know in the chat if this is better. I just switched that, so.
Also, let us know if you can't hear either of us either.
Yes.
Also, the Vue install, you need to install @vue-cli. So
Oh,
I can paste it on our chat here.
like this? Yeah.
We've got a thumbs up on the audio. Just saying.
Nice. Perfect. Thank you for that.
Cool.
All right, so we're installing a bunch of stuff here. I'm really interested because I never knew that there was a UI actually for Vue. So that's
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things
awesome.
because it has, for example, the bundle analyzer built in. So I use it that quite heavily because in JavaScript world, it's really easy to just npm install shit on your bundle, and then all of the sudden you have like 4 megabytes running on the wire. So you don't want to do that.
Right.
Every time you build, when you go and check the bundle analyzer, you can see that maybe if you can tree shake something off or tweak something to, do I really need this moment again here if I don't use it but this one time or stuff like that.
Right.
And then it has all kind of, it has, for example, security checking for your packages and stuff like that built in. So.
Cool. So while this installs, what do we guys say about Gatsby and Gridsome? So we've been talking or mentioning that a bit already. So both of these are static site generators, but is there any like a major difference between these two?
I think Gatsby is way more mature. Mm-hmm. I have that impression. I haven't used it myself, but after reading the documentation, I think it's a lot more going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's the key difference, really. It's just how long the product's been out and how long it's been available and kind of the community that's been built around it. Like, similar to how React kind of had the jump on Vue, Gatsby's had the jump on Gridsome. But from what I can see, both are basically trying to solve the same problem and have the same goal. It's just which language you want to work with.
Cool.
Or framework.
Yeah, they call themselves frameworks now, right? Not generators, because it's all it's everything around it, not just the generator anymore.
It's an interesting concept in general. The Gridsome was my first stumble into this Jamstack thingy, and it's an interesting idea. And now when I actually got sold the idea, I was pretty hyped about it. But I don't know. It's not for everything, but the things it fits. It's really smart idea.
So
yeah. I think it's one of those things where the branding the branding of the whole Jamstack thing in the first place kind of goes against it in some ways because it says it's precedent that it's just static. I mean, the whole notion of calling it a static site generator, everyone just goes, okay, well, why can't I just write HTML and CSS manually and just, cut out all the JavaScript? But I suppose it's still a dynamic website. It's just all the dynamic functionality happens at build time or at runtime in the client.
So and then you can combine that with rich client as well. So it makes it even better in the sense that the old school static or SRI stuff or server side rendering stuff is basically it's lacking so much from the Jamstack idea.
All right, guys, I have a question here. Should I learn Vue React before tackling Gridsome or Gatsby? What do you think?
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's probably no reason why you couldn't learn it in. Yeah, I think there's no reason why you couldn't learn it in the context of it, though.
Yeah, but it makes it so much easier if you know what's at least for Gridsome in my opinion the documentation is not that good. Maybe for the very basics it's good, but then again you need to know the concepts and stuff like that. So it's really beneficial to know Vue if you're trying Gridsome at least.
Yeah, I think the danger you'd have of learning both at the same time is you wouldn't necessarily know what the boundary is. You wouldn't know what you're working with that belongs to Gridsome or Gatsby versus what belongs to Vue or React.
Yep. Yeah, that makes it even more difficult, for example, debug stuff, because you don't know which docs you're supposed to look at and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Try to take smaller steps in general. I think the iteration is the key in learning as well.
So actually, when I started with Gatsby, before I did Vue.js or Gridsome, and I didn't know any React before. So I just learned that as I went, and I wasn't very happy about it, but it worked.
I think you were also an experienced developer at that point.
Well, I still am.
Yes, phrasing, I guess. But yeah, at the time you were an experienced developer.
Yeah, sure.
So you probably had a better idea of where the separation lied, just based on being able to understand the materials you were working with better.
Yeah, it can get really deep really fast if you're trying to take it all in at once. If you don't have a clue what's going on like at all. So if you're just starting up, I think it's better to maybe tackle something a bit like smaller, just to get to know the very basics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's kind of like back in the day when people started learning jQuery and they didn't realize that wasn't JavaScript. Wasn't
exactly.
Vanilla JavaScript anyway. So that to them was just JavaScript.
Right. Well, I'm trying to run my Vue CLI, which already installed, but I'm still getting that it's not recognized. What's wrong here?
Let me see.
Did you install it with npm or yarn?
Sorry, Richard?
Did you install it with npm or yarn?
npm.
Okay. If it's yarn, sometimes you need to put yarn in front of it, but.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Windows, so I'm lost here.
Okay.
I'm totally out.
Is the command that you run actually Vue-CLI though? Is that just the name of the package?
Look at yeah, that's a good point.
No, the command itself is just Vue.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that works then.
So
nice.
Yeah.
So what do I do? Like Vue UI or?
Yep.
Okay. Nothing is happening.
Let me see.
What do I do now?
I think you're missing something.
Yeah, looks like it, because it does not give me any error, but it doesn't work either.
So let me Google stuff. Oh crap! Now I
Sure.
accidentally launched my own Vue UI.
This is where it turns out it's like opened it but on a different monitor and it's in the background somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. The Vue CLI probably not installed correctly, because if you go to cli.vuejs.org,
Yeah.
the very first page getting started there says install and then create project or say Vue UI. So
Did you, when you installed the CLI, you didn't
Oh.
install the scoped package? So I'm guessing you've installed maybe an older version of it.
No, I did install this thing. npm install -g Vue CLI. But I didn't create any project. Maybe that's an issue.
no, it shouldn't
No?
be, because it's not dependent. But you can create a project as well. That's
Okay, I'll try it again.
yeah. I actually just got my first batch merged into Vue documentation, and it's in the Vue CLI installation part. And I tried to get the part of redoing the installation because it sometimes fails with npm. So just uninstalling and installing it again, kind of like have you tried turning it off and on again, usually works with npm. I don't know why, but that's one of the most requested things in the Vue issues, that people can't get the thing installed correctly, or they can't. They don't know how to upgrade. So I just added a part in the documentation that shows you how to upgrade the actual package.
Mm-hmm.
But at least it seems to be installing something.
It seems to be installing something, yeah, but this is the same as I did a while ago, so we'll see if this will help. And in the meantime, actually, let me actually show you one thing that I prepared for you guys. And I didn't have it here. All right. So I thought that it would be nice if we just implement a really simple website on both of these platforms to see which one is gonna take us less time. And for that, I picked one of the templates here at HTML5 app.net. Actually, this is actually a very nice site. If you're not a designer, this is a nice site where you can download quite nice designs. Although they are based on jQuery, so beware of that. But this is a really simple site, right? What I aim is just to display these things here as blog posts, and I actually already have a few of my blog posts in my headless CMS, so we should be fine with data. We have actually plugins for both Gatsby and Gridsome, so that should be a piece of cake. So that's the next step that I wanna do with you guys, and hopefully you'll be able to help me, because I'm definitely gonna need help with Gatsby and with JS6.
No pressure.
Install Gatsby and Gridsome as well then.
Yeah.
before
All right,
start.
I'm just gonna put that here into this folder. Let's put here a new folder. Let's call that template. Okay, put it here. And let's see the installation of the CLI. That's still running.
I think it might be the fact that your CPU is still being absolutely choked.
Yeah, let me see. Let me see. Yeah, we're going at 100%.
Yeah, because I've installed the CLI and ran Vue UI. It's loaded, and I'm installing a project. In the time you've been talking.
Right, yeah. I don't know, guys. Maybe I just need a new computer then. Or I'm just gonna get another computer just for OBS.
Time to get that dual computer streaming setup going.
Yeah. So yesterday, actually, I was actually attending a meetup here in Brno about Jamstack, and The guy there said that Apple just introduced a new MacBook that's capable of having 1.5 terabytes of RAM. So maybe that'll help.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah.
At least for NPM, I just pasted a image on the our Skype chat. If you know the meme about known modules, and there's this meme like warping the space-time, sun, neutron star, black hole, and then the last node modules.
Yeah, so. Yeah. I saw that. Yeah, it definitely seems like it. Yeah, I got a note here in the chat that it looks like it's downloading the whole internet. Yeah, that really seems like it.
I'm pretty sure that's what NPM does.
Yeah.
It just downloads the whole internet every time you try to do anything.
Yeah, true. All right, let's try it again. Vue.ui, but it still doesn't do anything. So maybe I'll just Google that and see how it looks like.
Yeah, that's basically how it looks like. So
right.
It has a dark mode as well, which is nice.
Nice. All right, guys. If you're looking at this and want to get this up and running, just install Vue CLI and bring it up. I can't do it because my computer is struggling with CPU. So Google Images is a better resource for me at this point. Do you need elevated privileges in PowerShell? That's a question in chat about this. But I think that if I needed that, it would tell me something, right?
Yeah, and not for the CLI. I don't know how or where Windows installs the -G packages with NPM, but it shouldn't need any elevated privileges.
Right.
No. I just ran it with a normal command prompt, not with as an administrator or anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I don't think that I can do that now. So, guys, if you need that, just run this. Hopefully, you'll see something like that. If you're running OBS, switch it off first, and then everything will be working for you.
Yeah.
All right, but let's move on. Let's move on to actually Gatsby and Gridsome. So, do we want to start with Gatsby or Gridsome?
I'd like to see Gatsby.
All right, so let's start with Gatsby. So, I think we're starting with a boilerplate, right?
Well, if you're going to be using Kentigo content, then you probably want to start with the Kentigo content starter.
Right. That's a good point. I assume I'll find it somewhere over here, right?
I mean, if you were looking for it, you'd probably go via GatsbyDog.
Yeah, that's true. All right. So if we go to GatsbyJS.org. And we look at docs. I think there's a section that lists all the source plugins, right?
It's on the left-hand side if you go on Starter Library. And then if you search for content in there,
okay,
should come up.
Sourcing from Kentigo content. That's what I'm looking for. All right. The first thing to do, sign up, blah, blah, blah. I already have that. So what I want is, where is the boilerplate? Creating new pages. No, that's not what I want. So it just tells me how to install the plugin. It doesn't list the boilerplate at all.
Well, the starter will set up a project for you. So.
Okay. So where is the? Okay, so let's just look for content starter.
If you go to the docs again, if you look on the left-hand side in the navigation, there's a starter library link, just nearest the top, about 4 links down.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
There you go.
Cool. So
and then
starter.
If you search for content in the second search box on the right.
Nice.
I'll do it that way. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, let's start with this one, the simplest one. So I don't want to visit the demo, but I want to get it.
There you go. So if you copy that command.
Yes. I'm just going to copy
Should
that.
Be good.
Okay, something's happening. Cool. So creating new site from Git. Nice. So in the meantime, let me just go to the content project to find out the project ID. I don't know why, but your images in the stream are always shrinking and enlarging, and I have to fix it every time. You know, this is really annoying.
Yeah.
I have to figure out a better way how to do it next time.
I think with Skype that happens if the resolution drops from 1080 to 720, 720,
okay.
and then it causes the output to change.
Okay.
I have no idea how you fix that.
Yeah, I have to fix that somehow.
I think that's the cause.
That'll be my homework till next time. All right, guys. I have the project ID, so let's take a look at how this is progressing. So this is still working.
Downloading the internet.
Yeah, downloading internet seems, yeah. Installing packages, of course. But still, it's better to just wait a few moments than to start on a green field and have to do everything on my own. So as long as the computer is doing things that I would have to do otherwise, I'm happy to wait.
Yeah, this will be the time when you go get a cup of tea while you're waiting.
Yeah, exactly. I actually remember... Richard, you already worked at Kentico EMS, right? The all-in-one solution on .NET. So I remember I was visiting a client, and they actually had, I think it was implementation based on Kentico CMS version 5 or something. Yeah, so there was really an ancient history. And there was one lady that was actually operating that instance. And when they wanted to upgrade, she said like, no, that's fine. I like my website the way it is, and I want to keep it that way. And when we asked her like, why don't you want the website to be upgraded? Because it's going to be 10 times faster. And she said, no, that's fine. I just log into the instance, then I go get my cup of coffee, and I know that at the time, or by the time that I get back, it's going to be all loaded. So she was really happy about the delays because that gave her time to get a coffee or something. So. Yeah.
I like the priorities.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't remember how that ended, if we upgraded that or not, because it's a long time ago, but was a nice use case.
Probably just snuck a thread.sleep in there just so she still had enough time to go get a coffee.
Yeah. All right, this is still going. So guys in the chat, if you do have any other questions, just feel free to shoot them here. We are happy to answer anything that might be of interest to you regarding these frameworks. Otherwise, I think the Gridsome will be a little bit faster. We'll see.
So I think I might be jumping the gun a little bit, but you said that obviously those HTML5 templates use jQuery.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, how does Vue handle using, I guess, like non-Vue things for interacting with the DOM and stuff like that? Because obviously React, that's a big no, or it can cause issues anyway. I'm just curious as to whether Vue's more forgiving with that.
Yeah, it's pretty forgiving. It's what I first fell in love with Vue with was that you can actually just install the hosted browser package in your like link CSS in your header, and then just add a piece of Vue functionality on your old jQuery site, for example, and it basically doesn't matter. You can just pop it in anywhere. You don't need any tooling. You can just write yourself by hand one JavaScript file or a script tag inside your templates, and off you go. But then again, most of us probably use it with proper tooling and stuff like that. But Vue is pretty forgiving, but I wouldn't want to use it that way. But obviously there are situations where you need to, for example, add new functionality to a site that's been handled to a third-party CMS or something like that. So there's it's pretty nice to have it working along. You can use Vue along React, for example. It doesn't matter.
Okay, well, that's quite cool.
Yeah.
It's obviously React. It's unless you want to write everything as React.createElement, you're gonna have to set up some sort of tooling to process the JSX syntax. So.
Yeah, I think because they work with those like the DOM magic they do. It gets pretty gnarly pretty quick. I think I don't know. I'm actually interested about how Vue 3 is going to change that, or if it's going to change that. They have a pretty big changes coming up with the way they handle the virtual DOM. So I don't know if it's going to affect this. I think it's not, but I don't know.
All right, guys, it seems like the Gatsby site is up and running now. So let's see if this will work. So 80,000, 8,000. Wow, okay. So seems like the website is up and running. So that took only 5 minutes until I download all the node packages. So this seems to work well.
Cool.
So let me open code actually so that we can adjust it to fit the design. And I think I already have a different project opened here. Yeah, let me close that. Now, this is actually from my previous Twitches, so that's fine. No secrets here.
I managed today to push my GitLab production API key into the repo.
Wow.
Yep. Needed to.
Oh, it's always fun.
Yeah, needed to revoke a couple of keys.
Yeah. Well, that happens.
Yeah,
I've been there multiple times.
yeah, we do have actually tooling for catch those, but
Mhm.
I managed to name the environment variable badly, so so it went through the linting process. So yeah, yet another Monday on Thursday.
Yeah. All right, guys. So here I have the template. So how do I just copy this over to Gatsby? Richard, I think this is for you. So here are some assets: CSS, JS, SAS. I don't think we need those, but JS.
Well, the styles could go straight over. It depends on how you'd want to approach the styles of the project, really. But
Yeah, just the quickest thing I can do. Just copy that over, probably.
yeah, copying any of the assets that you don't really sort of
So I'll just
care about.
I'll just take both of these things, but where do I put them then?
So in the root, you could create a static folder.
Okay.
And basically anything that you put in there will automatically get kind of copied into the public folder.
Okay.
So that's really useful for fonts primarily, and images if they're being referenced by kind of content rather than wanting to import them. CSS files you would probably just want to import into your layout file, into effectively what's your master page. So it still gets processed by the Webpack build behind the scenes.
Okay, let me make this bigger. So would that be under components? Yeah, layout.js.
And that's the one. So you can see in there it's already importing a layout CSS file. So you could copy the contents of the main CSS into that, or you could just import a few different CSS files in there.
So do I write static /assets or?
If you wanted to include them via the component, I'd move the CSS files into the source folder.
Okay.
And out of the static folder.
Okay, I can do that. So just the whole CSS folder under components?
Yeah, it'd be the easiest way of doing it for this one.
Or under source?
Under source, yeah.
Okay. Yes. All right, so here we go. So I just go ahead and import. So where are we? We're in the layout component. So we go one way up /css /main.css, right?
That's the one.
Okay.
And I guess probably the same for the font awesome icon.
we also need the font awesome icons, yes.
And if you want to be really good, obviously you want to include the no script, but
yeah, I don't care about that. All right, so we have I can remove this one, right?
yeah, that's just some boilerplate stuff.
Cool. So okay, now that solves CSS. Now I probably need to put some of the HTML there as well, right?
So one thing I'd double check there is check in the main CSS file and see where it's referencing the font files from.
Right, good point.
You're probably going to need to change those.
So CSS main. Oh, here it is. So that should work, shouldn't it?
You can remove that line because you're importing it
in
layout anyway.
I guess I'll keep this one.
Yeah, in the assets web fonts folder, in your static folder, the one you copied over.
Yeah.
What's in there? Okay, so it's just the font awesome icons.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, then probably just double check the font awesome style sheet and just see where they are in there. Which is minified, which is perfect.
That's what was that? That was WOF or something? Or WOF. Okay. So this should go like straight from the source, right? Slash assets.
No, so because the static folder, slash assets will be right, yeah. Because the static folder is going to effectively get copied straight into the public folder.
Right.
If you just have a root, an absolute URL there to slash assets, it should be fine.
So I'm just gonna switch it all to slash assets slash web fonts. This should work, right?
I think so.
So replace all. Cool. All right. So that should work now.
Yeah, that should be the CSS.
Yes.
Set up enough as much as you can right now, anyway.
Yeah. All right. I'll just open the template again and index HTML. So here we go. So I guess that with Gatsby, this is handled by Gatsby itself, right?
Yeah, so viewport meta tag, things like that will all get included.
Right, so
without to do anything.
So we're looking for this stuff here.
Yeah, although the body tag, obviously you won't want to copy that over.
Okay. So we're looking for, I guess we can omit these for now. That's just some jQuery stuff. But everything between body tags, right?
Yeah. You can potentially dump all that into the layout file.
Okay. So where do I put that? So this is...
So I guess if you were to go through the static layout file, just to give that a little bit of context.
Yeah.
I think it's probably worth just talking through that as well for anybody who hasn't got a clue what they're looking at.
Right.
So the layout file is essentially your master page. It's the component that wraps around every other kind of component that you're going to use. And the static query component runs a GraphQL query against the Gatsby's data to kind of pull out data that they can then use in rendering. That's a whole other can of worms. And then in your render function, that's obviously what it's going to render out to the page in there. So yeah, in this instance, you could probably replace everything inside that render function with what you just copied from the HTML file.
So I'll just keep the data in there for now, but I'll remove that and put it here.
Cool. And now you're probably going to have the absolute hell of unclosed tags and and comments that aren't the right syntax.
Yeah.
This is one of the downsides, is copying HTML from something is suddenly not that trivial.
Yeah, that's
you're
that's
not
fine.
actually writing HTML.
I can solve this quite quickly. Just remove all the fluff around. Here we go, once more. Footer, blah, blah, blah. And I think we're fine.
Cool.
That was easy.
Yeah, you got away with it.
So the images, will they work? Or do I need to put a / here as well?
Yes, they'll need a slash in front of them.
All right, so...
Unless, is the folder /images or /assets/images?
Oh, that's a good point. It's /assets. It's /images.
Okay, now
so
you should be okay.
Should be good. So we're looking for no, we're looking for images slash, and we want to change that to slash images slash. Oops.
Yeah.
There's one double slash there.
Yeah. All right, cool. So now this should work, right? So when I run the page now, it should show me
the one other thing you need to do is change everywhere where you've got class equals to class name equals.
Oh yeah, you're right. So class equals, and that goes to class name, right?
Yeah.
Oh, 67 occurrences. Cool.
And for those who aren't familiar with React, that's because technically you're not writing HTML, you're writing kind of JavaScript. So essentially you use the JavaScript tag attribute names instead of the HTML attribute names.
So I got a question here. Can you put the HTML in a separate file?
Not necessarily, no. So what you can do is split things up into components.
Mm-hmm.
So the separation, this is the big controversial part of React, I think, is the separation of concerns.
Mm-hmm.
So no, you can't have the HTML be separate to everything else.
Mm-hmm.
But you can separate the presentational code from the, I guess, kind of data-driven or business logic code.
Okay. Well, I think that this is going to be much cleaner once we just put few components here. But I just tried to develop it. So is it all that I need to do before I can run this?
In theory, we'll see what the CLI says. There might be syntax errors and things in there.
Okay. Let's see. 10 pages. Seems to be happy.
Yeah, I mean, that error was more of a potentially
it's
CPU issue, I think.
Yeah, stupid SVG
Something was
stuff.
locked.
All right, so let's see. So that would be localhost 8000, right?
Yep. See if it looks anything like the original.
It's still building the development bundle. All right, I'll wait a while.
I think it lazy loads that. It doesn't start doing that until you request the first page.
Oh, really?
I think I've noticed that, yeah.
Okay.
Can be a little bit tricky.
Oh, come on. What's taking so long? All right, there we go.
Cool. Ah, there we go.
Cool.
Nice.
Looks nice. Perfect. Nice. Okay, so now we have everything in the layout. So how do I get the data from my project in here? Well, first of all, I'll probably just add the project ID. So this is the test project ID. So I'll just change that, right, to my project.
Yeah. And if you were going to do this properly in production, you'd probably want to create a .env file.
Yeah.
Again, just in case anybody's watching who doesn't know the difference.
That's true, yeah, because otherwise the Gatsby config is usually committed into the GitHub repository, right?
Exactly.
So you want to have that in the .env file, which isn't here, but you could just add it here, and I think then you need to load the plugin that actually puts that into the environment variable.
Yeah. So there's a plugin called .env that you'd include.
All right. Yeah. For now, I don't really mind. This project is open anyway. So, and does it actually have a hot reload? Do I need to rebuild the site, or is it just going to work like that?
It has a hot reload on anything you do in the React components, but if you change the Gatsby config or Gatsby node, anything like that, then you need to restart.
Yeah, that's true, because now I figured it out, because when I change the project ID, then I need to get the data once again from the headless CMS. So
exactly, yeah.
That makes sense, yeah.
You could probably do something smart to make it watch for changes and restart automatically, but I've never really spent the time to look into that. So
do you know what's the status on the incremental builds? I know that the Gatsby team was looking into that.
All I know is that it's ongoing.
Right.
I don't think there's anything in the roadmap that's like officially kind of set for that. I think they're aiming to just get the incremental build times down as low as possible. Mm-hmm. The biggest feature recently has been the real-time previews.
Right. So I got a error here. Gatsby Node.js on 69. Yep. Which probably is because I changed the project and this is not true anymore.
Exactly.
But I don't need to create any pages. So, or do I? Yeah, I do need to create the blog pages probably.
You will need to eventually. It's probably if for the time being you want to make that one page, it's probably worth just commenting out the entire create pages function, because if you're not going to use it yet,
yeah, that's true.
It's just going to break the build.
Okay, where does this end here?
Nah, next line down, I think.
Okay. All right. So now should be good, but it's not going to display anything yet. But at least it'll let me open the GraphQL Explorer, so I can figure out my GraphQL queries.
That's actually something that Gatsby has way better GraphQL Explorer than Gridsome. But I recently, there's a ticket in the Gridsome repo about that, and I did a blog post how you can actually use the very same tool with Gridsome. So the big difference between those two is that with the name escapes me, but the tool that Gatsby uses, you can actually build your queries like visually with that. It's really, really good if you're a beginner with GraphQL. And with the Gridsome tool that comes bundled in, you can just browse the thing. You can actually build queries. So you need to build the queries by hand, which can be quite daunting if you don't know GraphQL. And just look at my blog posts and use the same tool. That's easier that way.
Cool. I'll check it out, and I'll include the link in the uploaded video to YouTube so that it's
sure.
It's in there. All right. So now we're running again, but what I'm looking for is the GraphQL Explorer. The good thing is, okay, here we go. So I'll just remove that and put there. So this is for create pages, right? So I'm looking for the all content. Okay, let me make this bigger. So I'm looking for all content item blog post for the node, and I'm looking for elements. And what do we have there? We have there, that's an image here. That's a name or a title of the blog post and a teaser or something that could fit that description. So we're looking,
I say if you wanted to write a query for your create pages, all you really need from that is the link. You're just going to want to construct the URL itself.
Yeah, you're right. So what we need here is, because right now we're just figuring out which items will need their own page, right? So we only need a slug.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't think I have that one here. So we're gonna have to use something else.
Will the link not be the slug in that case?
I'm not sure what I actually used that for. Let me check. I think the link is actually the external link. Yeah, that goes to external system. So, but that's fine. Let's use a code name of the item.
Yeah,
that will work anyway. So that will be edges node. We're looking at system code name. And we're also looking for the name, right? So that's the title value. Come on.
There you go.
Okay, that looks good.
Yeah, and if you click on Code Exporter at the top.
Yeah.
And on the right side, it'll give you code snippets. So if you're a beginner coming into this, you can see how you can go from the Graphical Explorer straight into code as well.
Cool. Okay, I'll just grab that.
That's actually a really nice feature.
Yeah. I actually need only the query here. So I'm just going to uncomment this and copy this thing here. And then, wow, there's a lot of things going on. I'm just going to need the create page, right?
Yeah. yeah, that's doing a bunch of union stuff that you definitely don't need.
Yeah. So just keep it simple. We don't need this here.
I think you need to get rid of that line above resolve.
Yeah. Okay, so this is called the create page. Then we need to call resolve.
Yeah, you'll need to on your result you'll have the all content item blog post.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll want to map for each through that and create a page for each one.
Does our audience know how Jamstack works in general?
I think so, but we can summarize that. Do you want to do that while I work on this?
Yeah. So the idea is that while your site is static in development mode, you can actually use these. I don't know what they're called in Gatsby, but you can use these APIs and importers to import like dynamic data and use dynamic data while you develop your site. And when you actually build the site, Gatsby or Gridsome actually builds the site as a static site from the dynamic data you have going on in the development, or if you have it running, for example, in CI, you can hook up to actual APIs and stuff like that. But it's really nice to have the best of the both worlds kind of. So in development mode, you're running dynamic sites, and when you build it as a static site, you can have it all static, or then on top of that, enrich it with client side data as well.
So Richard, help me out here. What's in the result here? I don't know how.
So if you undo what you just did there, so if you change the path back to what it was for a second.
Okay.
So just above create page.
Yeah.
You should be able to do result dot all content item blog post.
Oh, here.
Yeah. So it'll be essentially at this point you're getting access to the structure of the GraphQL query that you've just executed above there.
So I'm just gonna assign it to something?
No, so that all content item blog post is a connection, I think it's called. So you'll want to do dot edges.
Yeah.
And then do dot for each, because that's an array.
Yeah.
And then inside there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the usual pattern is the first parameter. If you just deconstruct that as node, so if you put brackets around the node,
yeah,
and then curly braces around node.
Like this?
No, you need both.
Okay.
Otherwise, it'll complain.
All right.
So it's essentially what you're doing there is when you do for each, you're getting an edge, and on an edge there is a node. So you just kind of skipping having to do edge dot node every time.
Okay, so I'll just put the create page inside.
Exactly.
All right. So now I'm getting here a node dot fields. No, we're looking for node dot system dot codename.
Yep.
Oops, that was way too much. And we're probably looking for something like a blog / something like this. And the component will be source templates. We know that this is going to be a blog. And the context, I don't think we need template name.
Nope. So the only thing you'll need there, because you're not using multiple languages, you're not using anything else. So
I don't need that.
Just passing your code name.
Yeah.
And you can probably change the property value to code name instead of slug as well.
Yeah. And I guess I don't need the title here in the GraphQL query, right?
No, well, you're not using it there, so
yeah.
All right.
So this will make sure that I generate all the pages. Now the template is in source templates here. So I'm just gonna rename this to blog. and essentially just remove everything here.
Yeah, so you could remove probably the format date, I guess, if you're not going to be using that. But you'll probably use the other things in there.
Yeah, this one.
So if you scroll down, yeah, so the first thing here that kind of connects the template to the data that you've got, you've got that query at the bottom.
Right.
So
this is the code name.
Exactly.
Yeah, all right. So this will be the code name. Oops, typo here. And so this is the GraphQL query that actually gives me all the data I need for that specific page, right?
Yeah.
All right.
So that's where you might want to go back to your Explorer and figure out what data you want.
So I just want a title. I want the image URL. And I want, what else do I want? A teaser? Teaser here. Okay, let's take a look what we get. So sometimes the image URL is not there, but that's because there's an actual image. So we might be looking for URL as well. So image URL is nothing, and we have the image here. And sometimes it's the other way around. So we have image URL, and there is no image. But we got the teaser, we got the title. So I think that this query actually works. So I'll just take it again here. This is cool. I didn't know that the code exporter was there. And we're looking. So I'll just put it within the query, right?
Yeah, so you'll want to keep the query part first.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I think you've got an extra open and closing brace on it too.
Oh yeah. Okay. So now I should be able to write the markup here?
Not necessarily. So just another tweak to that GraphQL query. So currently what you're doing there is you're getting all of the blog posts. And you'll be getting all of the blog posts for every single blog page that you're making, when obviously really you just want to get the one blog post.
Oh yeah, you're right.
So where you've got all content items, you actually just want to go for content item blog post instead.
Okay. So is there an easy way how to do this here?
Yeah, I mean you can, like I say, if you open that back up again, assuming it hasn't got rid of it. I think you might just be able to press the back arrow, to be honest. The browser back arrow.
Where?
Literally the browser back arrow, because it stores it in the query string.
No.
I think. Oh, apparently not.
No. Okay, I'll just open. I think if I open this back again. No?
Okay. Well.
Okay.
You could just copy it back over.
Yeah, true.
There you go. So
cool.
If you remove the all part of that and make the K lowercase.
Nice.
And then remove the edges and node wrappers. And then obviously the other side.
Okay.
And that will get you a single one. So on the left-hand side, you can see the kind of the purple highlighted fields. Yeah. So those are your like filter options. So if you want to filter down to find one based on its code name, if you expand system, code name, and then equals, and then that's where you would put the value. Yeah.
Right. So I'll just copy that over, and instead of the string literal, I'll just put there the variable, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
This is where the graphical tools help a lot.
Yeah.
This would take me literally hours to figure out if were not the graphical tool for it. And that actually makes it really fast for beginners too. You can get lots of done in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you go back to the code explorer as well, just to show, if you click on JavaScript.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought there was a TypeScript option too. But if you go on page query, there's kind of the other ways that you can use that query as well. So if you want to write a static query, you've got it there. And Gatsby's also got a static query hook, a React hook, so you can use that syntax as well.
Cool, nice. All right, so now we have all the data here, so I can go ahead and copy the layout or the markup.
Yeah.
All right, so I think I have that somewhere over here.
Well, this would be the detail page, technically.
Yes. Oh, yeah, you're right. Oof, it's getting more complicated. So I think, how was that page called? Oh, generic. Generic page. But we don't want the layout, right? We only want what's within the div main.
Yeah. Although if you want to do that, you'll probably want to amend the layout because currently the layout isn't rendering anything inside it.
Yeah, you're right. So I'll just remove the div main from here and put there something like children or...
Actually, I think... Is that everything? Is that left ahead? Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, if you output children there.
Oh, is it children? Nice.
It's curly braces.
Oh.
And then lowercase children. So that's like the kind of template syntax for React.
Right.
At least it's not really template syntax, but it's the equivalent to, I guess, in Vue. I think it's called template syntax.
Yeah.
And then you get to copy the actual content of the template into there now.
Cool. So this is gonna be the div main. All right. And this is gonna be, okay, so now I can work with the data, right? So
yeah.
If I put here, is it just the curly brackets in React? Like item dot, what's it gonna be? Title?
It'd be elements.title.
Oh yeah, you're right. Elements.title.value. Oops, that was too much.
Yeah.
All right.
And you're gonna want to change where you're assigning item at the moment. Change that to content item blog post.
Oh yeah, you're right. So content item blog post. Oh, we got a new guests in our chat window. Wow, a lot of people actually there. Hello guys, good to see you here. So some guy's asking me, which one are you? Okay, that would be me at the top.
So it looks like it was arrayed by Pixel Logic Dev.
Yes. Nice. Great to see you guys. All right, cool guys. Nice of you to come back here and learn something about Gatsby. All right, so we got the title there. Now, what do we do with these, with the content here?
So if you go back to GraphQL, so we can just check to see what it actually look like.
Sure. So this is the generic page. Here we go.
So yeah, so you've got HTML in your teaser there, so you've got paragraph tags.
Yes, that's a good point actually. I don't know what's in there. Oh, this paragraph text. Okay, so we need some kind of a wrapping element and dangerously set inner HTML or something like that.
Yes, essentially. It's in React. It's very scarily named dangerously set inner HTML.
Yeah. All right. So dangerously set inner HTML, and that would be item. Or do I need to use curly brackets here as well?
Yeah, and it actually takes an object. It's very specific in what it requires from you. So you actually need to set an object inside there first.
Oh, okay.
So another set of curly brackets.
So like this? Or
no,
like this.
Just like no, just another set of curly brackets. It's like object literal syntax.
Oh, like this?
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the key is underscore HTML.
Oh, like this.
There you go. Yeah, so it is very, very explicit in terms of making sure you don't do that when you shouldn't.
I like how they name it, like you are shooting yourself in the foot.
Basically, make sure you've sanitized your content before you use this.
Exactly.
Yeah, nice. All right, so this should work, right?
Yeah, in theory.
Where we should be fine.
if you rerun the command, because we've changed Gatsby node as well.
Yeah, but first I wanna create the index as well, so that we have the index page as well there. I think that should be quite easy, right?
Yeah.
So if we go back here, I think we just need to change the query. We're looking for all content items. We're looking for all content items blog post. And we want to display edges, nodes, elements. We're looking for title, teaser as well, and the image or image URL. So pretty much the same query. So I'll just copy that over.
It'd just be the bottom part that you'd want for that one.
Sorry?
It's just the bottom part that you want for that one.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah. Good point. Okay. So just remove all that and put it here. Okay.
I think you need the wrapping braces on that.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise it'll be a GraphQL syntax error.
All right. So now I just need to change this part, right? The UI. So the items. So I can just stick with this. So items is gonna be data all content item blog post edges, and again the for each, right? Yeah.
You'll want to do a map, so you'll probably just want to assign items to be the edges.
So item, and we want to map that to the HTML, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just gonna grab that from the template again. So we're looking at article. Oh, well, there is also an increment in style. So is there like an something that we can use for incrementing, or?
So essentially all you're writing here is JavaScript. So array.map has two parameters. The first one is the item, the second one's the index.
Okay. So I just put here. So do I write it like in normal quotes, or how do I do that?
So you can use template literals for that. So if you remove the double quotes.
Oh yeah.
Add your braces in there.
Right, like this.
Ooh. Yeah, but you can do that, or you could use a template literal as well if you wanted to do that.
Oh, how?
With your good old backticks.
You mean like that, or no? Like I need
to. It's backticks. It's the one to the left.
Funny looking one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you can do $brace inside before the closing backtick.
Oh, here?
Yeah.
Dollar and index?
No, it'd be $, open curly bracket.
Right.
Then close, yeah.
Okay, cool. Nice. Now we have the image here. Let's leave that for now. Then is the ref here, and I think I don't have a code name here in the query.
Was that supposed to be class or class name? The previous.
It would need to be a class name, yeah.
Class name, yes. Good point. Okay, so the ref will go to /blog/ and I think I can do the backticks here as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Although in a curly brackets, right?
Yeah.
All right, so blog/ and now I want item system codename. Okay, now there's gonna be the title. So item elements title dot value. And here I'm just gonna do the same as before. So, this is an object.
Yep. That's the one.
HTML, right?
Yeah.
And this is gonna be item elements teaser value. Cool. And I think this creates the index page, although I think I also need to wrap it in the layout, right?
Yeah, it had some
So just
wrapping
remove this.
HTML as well.
I can actually remove it all here. I just return layout, and in there I'll just return items. I don't need the diff, right?
Well, in the template, I think it had some
Yeah,
stuff that went around the items as well.
Let's check, yeah. Section class titles and some
yeah.
sort of a header and div class, inner div class main. Okay, let's put it there. And of course, class should be class name. Class should be class name. Then the items. And then, because we're good developers, we're just gonna end everything the way it should be.
A couple of classes in line 9 and line
Yeah.
40-ish or something.
You're right, yeah. Okay, are we good now?
It looks like it.
All right, now let's refresh that and see.
So there's a lot of little details when you're working with React that can be that can trip people up. That's why I was saying before the learning curve can be a little bit steep.
Right. But it's very, very easy to, once you do a few things, once you do a few components, it gets quite straightforward how all these things work.
Yeah.
Oh, cannot read property edges of undefined. Gatsby node 60.
Interesting.
60. All content item blog post. Maybe there's a typo there somewhere.
I think it's result.data.allcontent item blog post.
Where is it?
I think after result, you just need to put .data.
Oh, right.
Yeah, give that a go. I think that'll work.
We'll see in a moment. So funny thing, in the chat, there is a message, give me all the learns. That's what you want to hear. Nice.
Yeah.
All right, slowly getting there. Create pages worked. There was an error in my query.
That's just because you've got a template.
Oh yeah, that's a different thing. That's a different thing, that's fine. We don't care about that for now. All right, so let's see. Not here, not there. Where is my, I don't have it open, I think. 8,000.
Building your dev bundle.
Yeah. Ooh. Export default project reference. Yeah, that's probably my mistake because I renamed the class and did not rename the export. So we're looking at blog template and we're exporting project reference. So that should be
I like
blog.
the trace back. It looks better than in Vue projects. You can actually read what's wrong with there.
Yeah.
I think if you go back into that file, you didn't rename the actual export.
Oh, I didn't?
Export default.
Oh.
I think is it line? It's above the GraphQL.
You're right.
20.
Yeah. You're right. Okay, so here we go. Cannot query field, content speaking engagement on type query. Where is that? Okay, let me remove.
Missing something.
I'll just delete
Use that template. There we go.
Oh, do I need to rebuild that? Rebuilding
Maybe.
development bundle.
I feel like it should realize that it's not needed and it's not used, but
Nope. Okay.
yeah, try restarting the CLI.
Yeah. But it's not that bad actually. I think that the build with Gridsome takes a bit longer than with Gatsby.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm not fond of with these Jamstack things. When in early development phase, when you're doing lots of changes, you're constantly waiting for the build. But it gets way faster after the first hump.
I guess I have a dog behind me and she's drinking, so I just muted myself for a while.
Thirsty.
Yeah, so cannot read property code name of undefined. Item system code name, that's in the index page. So what is wrong there?
I'm guessing we haven't included system in our GraphQL query.
I think I changed to that. So here is node system code name.
Interesting. So if we go back up to where we're accessing it, I think we may have left item. Yeah, okay, so at the moment, item is an edge, not a node.
Oh, right. So we need to do item.node.
Yeah, so you could either do item.node or in the parameter you could deconstruct it as well. That's more personal preference, really.
Oh, so you mean like this?
Yeah, and if you did node colon item in the parameter.
You mean here?
Yeah. So if you do colon item there.
Like this?
You're essentially aliasing the value to item again.
Cool. Okay. I didn't know this. Nice.
Yeah. Some people really, really hate that syntax because it can get a bit. If you've got quite a few properties in there, it can be hard to read. But if you use it sparingly, it can be quite useful.
Cool. Okay, let's see.
It's really useful when you need to refactor things anyway.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now let's switch to my context back here. All right.
Ooh.
This seems to be nice, but I don't see any data here. Let's see if it's in the source.
Got the header.
Let's see if it's here. So we got the header, we got the section, but nothing inside the section.
Section is empty.
Why is that
So
empty?
what I'd recommend there is you've not got the React developer tools installed.
No.
I would definitely go and do that.
Right.
Because they're incredibly useful.
Yeah, you definitely need to do that with Vue as well. So if you create some install Vue developer tools in your
I think I do
browser.
have those here actually. Let me see. But I got a fairly new computer, so I don't think I have it here. Yeah.
It's a fast install for development.
Okay, so how do I do that?
Or
for the React Dev tools, it's if you go to the Chrome Web Store.
Yeah. It's in settings, or where do I find that?
Yeah, you can go through extensions, or you can just if you search for Chrome Web Store, it'll come up as well. But either.
Okay.
There you are. React Dev tools.
No search.
That's your installed ones. You'll need to click on the menu top left, next to extensions, and then at the bottom left.
Oh yeah.
It's probably one of the worst user interfaces.
Yeah.
It's finding the extensions.
Okay, let's see. React. So React Developer Tools.
That's the one.
Yes,
I'm really happy
extension.
that I haven't used Chrome for so long that I didn't know that. I'm really, really happy about that. I only use it for when I need to check something in development that doesn't work for some reason.
Nice.
What browser have you been using?
I switched to Firefox because of privacy reasons and I've been really, really happy with that. It's worked really well for me.
Because I started using Brave, which just because it's another Chromium-based browser, but it's not got as much of the snooping stuff as Chrome typically does.
But you can install basically everything for Chrome for that one as well, right?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
It's like the new Edge, where all Chrome applications work for it.
Exactly.
I've actually switched to the new Edge as my work browser now, because we're Windows based anyway, so it's quite handy. And it's a really good browser.
Yeah.
It's actually quite nice to say that about a Microsoft-made browser for a change.
I'm really happy about the place that Microsoft is right now. They're in a good place, like developer-wise at the moment with GitHub and with the whole community thing. I'm happy for them.
Yeah,
And for the whole developer community in the.
Yeah, they've definitely stepped up.
So what do I do here, guys? So
if you close the DevTools and reopen them completely,
yeah,
you should have an extra option in the nav. There you go. So
components, right?
Cool.
Okay, so if you collapse the console window.
Oh yeah. I'm just gonna put it there. All right.
So if you scroll
we're
down
looking-
there.
Yeah.
Yep. So index is your page, layout is the layout, obviously. So
children is undefined.
So if you go on to static query,
Yeah.
in the component tree, and actually I think it might be a level down. So if you go onto the consumer,
here? Yeah.
potentially
There's
if you
some
expand that
context.
out, so that number there is like a reference to the query that is
Okay.
executed. So if you expand that again and then data, then you can start to see
Mm-hmm.
kind of the query is executed.
Oh, maybe it's a different query then.
Yeah.
Did I actually copy the query? I did.
Yeah, because it doesn't look like it's including that data, because that's the query from the layout and not the page.
Yeah. So what do we do with that then?
Should we go back to the DevTools?
Yeah.
And just go into the static data query renderer, because it doesn't seem like there's anything else inside there.
Oh, here?
Yeah, so it doesn't look like it's rendering anything. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to go back to your layout and just maybe we put the
Sure.
children bit in the wrong place? We scroll up.
I think that's fine. So this is a query.
Yeah, it should be okay.
Render data. Children. Okay, I'll just try to rebuild the thing.
Actually, in saying that, the content it's rendering there is
Mhm.
not in the layout, so it must be coming from the index page.
Someone on the chat is asking, what are we working on? We're testing out Gatsby at the moment, writing a new site with React and Gatsby.
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
I just spotted the bug. And this is something that trips up, I imagine, new React developers all the time. So if you go back to the index page,
Mm-hmm.
so if you look at your mapping function there, after the arrow, you've got braces.
Yeah, here.
So that means that you've got an explicit return and not an implicit return.
Ah, okay.
So you're not actually returning that JSX.
So can I do it this way?
So if you... Yes,
Seems to work.
that should work. Yeah.
All right, let's see.
There we go.
Nice. Okay.
Yay.
Cool. So now this works, and if I click on that, I should go to the new page that should be already generated, and the content's there. Cool. Nice. So that wasn't hard. Took us a bit longer than I expected, but nice. I guess then we could just figure out the images as well later. Because we already have the URLs, but that would be pretty much just a markup thing, because we have already all the data in there.
Mhm.
But cool, right. So what do you say, guys? We switch to Gridsome? We're not sure if you can actually have time, because it's taking longer than I expected, but...
Yeah, basically it's very much the same kind of process with Gridsome.
right.
I don't know how to. We used some kind of starter here for the content.
We
So-
already have one. There is a plugin for that, but we can actually use a normal, like a normal starter for Gridsome. but I don't really know. So where do I find one?
So if you go to Gridsome website, you can just, for example, install the default
Right.
starter or empty. So
Okay.
it's, if you go to docs and scroll down a bit, there should be how to install.
Okay.
So if you have Gridsome running on your machine, you should just say Gridsome create and
Yeah, I do.
name. So
Gridsome
create
name. Sample.
Yeah. And if you would use a starter, you would add the URL to that.
Mm-hmm.
So it would basically give you a template of it's the same exact thing you use with.
Right. It's instant dependencies with npm. So this should take only like an hour or so.
Yeah. After the internet has been downloaded.
Yeah. We got another note in the chat. I would probably wrap in parentheses instead. Yeah, that's a good point. As a React dev, my non-biased opinion is React. Well, yeah.
Yep. I think it's a good thing that we have like options, because it's good for the community in general. And it's good for the field that there are different opinions and different ways to do it. I'm really happy for Svelte, however you pronounce that, because they have pretty much shuffled the decks a bit with coming on the scene with Vue and React. They have totally new kind of way of looking at things, and I think it's refreshing, and it gives the whole community a fresh pair of eyes.
Absolutely. I mean, ultimately, competition is good for everybody. So
yeah, exactly, and it's really nice to have options. So if you don't like Vue, you can use React, or if you don't like React, obviously, if you are in a company, you should just pick your tools and then stick with them. It's the worst thing when you go. I do quite a lot of consulting and short gigs, booting up teams and stuff like that. When you go to a company that has been using, there has been this rockstar developer starting 10 projects with 10 different tools, and 5 years later, it's just a mess. So if you're in a corporate environment, just stick to your guns.
Yeah.
But for personal projects, it's fun to have options.
Yeah, just like me. Whenever I create a new project, I always create it in a different technology. So
it's really good for learning.
Yeah, so for the past year, I actually built one project on Blazor, one project on Nuxt, one project on Gatsby, and one on Gridsome. So.
What's Blazor?
Blazor is that's actually a great tool. If you're a .NET developer and you want to do front end, but you don't want to do it in JavaScript, you can use Blazor client side. That will actually take all your C# code. It features dependency injection and other features, and it will actually convert it via mono so that it's executable on WebAssembly. So it's actually going over the JavaScript running WebAssembly. The package is fairly big, but it works quite nicely. It's still under development, but it's really great that you can use your knowledge that you gained as a C# developer. So
those kind of tools are good for like big environments and environments that you know that are, for example, company inside the company, where it doesn't matter if the bundle size is 10 megs.
Yeah.
If people load it over the LAN.
Yeah, I agree. Well, the bundle as I measured, it was like 10 megs for a small site. So it's not really the best for mobile devices, but I'm still trying to figure it out. Yeah, so don't take my word for granted. Maybe I'm just overlooking something. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
still learning there.
Those kind of tools aren't made for making super lean website. They're made for the convenience of you using the same stack to do your website as you do your backend with. So
yeah, but it's really nice to work with, I have to say.
Cool.
So we got our Gridsome created, and I think that I'm just trying to start it up to see how it looks like. And in the meantime, I opened the page for the Gridsome source Kentico content plugin, which I'm just gonna add to the site. It's really straightforward. All you need to do is just add the plugin there and add the project ID in place. So
you just need to npm install the interwebs first.
Yeah. So let's see, localhost 8080. Let me just close some of these things. That should help RAM. Okay, I think I don't need any of those anymore. All right, so this is Hello World, nice. And I can now install the plugin. So what do we have here? npm install and this plugin.
So can you tell me something about the Kentico content thingy? I don't know anything about that. So
yeah, so it's,
what is it? What can you do with that?
So that's a headless CMS.
Okay.
It mainly for you as a developer, you're gonna be mainly interested in the SDKs and in the ways how you can consume the content. So whatever content is in there, you can consume via API. Or via SDK. If you're working in JavaScript, you're gonna use the JavaScript SDK. If you use static site generators, there are other plugins there are plugins for each of those generators. Yeah. So we have a plugin for Gatsby, plugin for Gridsome and others. So essentially, it just stores the content for you.
Okay.
With some personal sites, it's really easy because there is not that much content there. But it also gives you a nice collaborating capabilities if there are multiple people working on a project. It gives you the things like assets management, so you don't have to create 5 versions of a single image. You know, the CMS will just do that for you. So there's a lot of features that you can use. Content management API that lets you actually create the dynamic components on a static site. So I've been doing that in a few of my other Twitches. Where you just generate the static site and some of the components are actually dynamic, so they get the data once the site is already generated, and then they take input from users and via serverless functions actually take the data back into the headless CMS. So yeah, content is what actually stores it all.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. All right, so we have the plugin there. I'm just gonna copy this part into the. Oh, let me just close this and open the other. There we go. So that's in Gridsome config. What I found when working with Gridsome, it's really similar to Gatsby in a lot of things. And one of the things is also the plugins management. So I'm just gonna put that here.
One thing I like to underline, especially for those of you who know Vue, it's just Vue. So if you want to do something and don't know how to do it exactly in Gridsome way, if you will, it's just Vue and JavaScript. So go for it. It's that's a nice thing. These tools in general. They do have some conventions, though. For example, if we get to soon to the part where we are adding, for example, CSS and stuff like that.
Right. So how do we add the CSS? I think that it's quite similar to what we've been doing before, right?
Yeah. So if you want to use static assets, it works exactly the same. So you add static folder in your project. It's there already. Actually,
it was there. Yeah.
So that gets just copied. But if you want to do something, for example, to your CSS, or you want to use preprocessors, you would put them inside your source folder and make Webpack do things with it.
Right.
But for simple static things, that's the way you do it. The thing I dislike the most in Gridsome is the way you link stuff to your head elements in your main files. You're basically supposed to do it by, or the right way to do it is to use your main.js, and there's a documentation how to do it. So you use JavaScript functions to basically add content there.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Another way of doing is just to override your index.html template and put it there. That's not the way you're supposed to do it, because you lose all the basically the bundler, what the bundler does, for example, cache busting and stuff like that. But that's something I really don't like, because such an easy thing to do, or such a simple thing, is not so very straightforward with. There's if you go up in the left menu, there's populating head in the basic Gridsome populating head. So there's the.
Oh yeah, this is cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like very much, because if you have 20 of those, it will get pretty hairy pretty soon.
Yeah.
And if you need to, for example, copy paste from a template like we are going now, if we want to, you need to basically convert your HTML to JavaScript at this point.
But what I really like this specific piece of code example. I really like this one, because when I started with Gridsome, I was always figuring out, or with any static site generator, I was always figuring out where to put the CSS and JavaScripts, or other resources, and how to actually link it from the page. And this small code piece actually has every single thing you need. Yeah, like you don't need the inline CSS usually. But what you definitely need is how to add an external CSS file. And then you definitely need to add some external JavaScript before the closing of the body tag. So that's like, it's like the page is reading my mind, what I need to do. So this is really cool.
It's interesting. You love that, and I hate that with a passion. So, but yeah, I think it's just because I'm such an old school developer, and I like things being explicit and simple. So this is again some really smart JavaScript developer decided that we can have like all the JavaScript magic by using these functions. So which I understand that, but again, if I want to do for example, a simple one-page site, it takes so much time to do all of those instead of just copy pasting it, which I usually do by adding an index HTML and putting it there.
Right. So what do I do here? Do I just write here /assets/
yes
CSS?
Yep. So it's basically exactly the same that it was with the React tool.
So first I'll just put there the font awesome. All min CSS. Okay. And the web fonts also need to be adjusted, I assume.
Yeah, probably.
Here, yeah. So or maybe not. So we're looking here. So it goes one folder up to /web fonts. I think that'll work. If we reference it this way, right?
I think so.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm not going to solve the JavaScripts here because it's going to be essentially the same, but we didn't do that for Gatsby as well. So I'll just keep it as it is right now. We'll see how that will work. But I assume that with the page, we start with the layout again.
Yeah, so it's Gridsome the magic here is the index HTML. So the basic template, you don't see it anywhere. So what you see is the default, what we are looking at right now. And this is where you put your content. And this is the main page.
I'll just remove the styles, yeah?
Yeah.
So this is something that I really love about Vue and about Gridsome as well, that it's not like with React that you have all the curly brackets everywhere around the place, but you have just the template, that's the HTML code, and you have the static query, that's the data.
And if you want to put those in different, if you want to put the template in template.html, you can.
Yeah.
And one thing to note, you have the static query there, not syntax highlighted. It's super easy to add the syntax highlighting. There's a documentation in the Gridsome documentation. You just add it to the Vue, the VS Code Vue config. So
how do I do that then?
maybe search for something like syntax highlighting or.
Oh, here it is, GraphQL syntax. Okay.
First result.
Yeah.
ESLint
So,
plugin.
so add it to the setting. You don't need to do anything else. You have already a feature installed. So all you need to do is open your settings JSON and add that there, and you're golden. So
settings JSON. Is that the configuration of the VS Code?
Yep.
How do I do that?
So settings.
Here it is.
And then in the right side of the top right, you have the one of those icons opens that settings JSON.
Oh, like this one?
That one. Yeah.
Right.
So you just paste it there and.
Like this?
Yes. And now you have syntax highlighting for your GraphQL as well.
Cool. Okay.
You might need to open it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nope.
Or maybe open the whole or refresh the whole. I don't know how to do that, except have you try turning it off and on again. But yeah, that was nice because it was super easy to do that.
No, still doesn't work.
Did you add it to? Interesting.
Maybe I did something wrong here.
Maybe CSS or page query. And do you have GraphQL plugin installed?
Probably not.
Yeah, so that's it.
Okay.
So just the extensions tab, and then it's in the left side. Yeah. Search for GraphQL, and then. So then Vue has this concept of .vue files, which is a one file that contains your template code, your JavaScript code, and your styles, and in this case also your GraphQL code. And so you want to the editor sees all of those parts in as native language, so you need a GraphQL extension to.
So it's not finding any.
I think that might just be our Visual Studio Code.
Yeah, it could be. Show.
It's not finding any extensions. There's definitely GraphQL extension. Let me see. What's the extension called?
I'd say if you guys don't mind, I'm quickly nip out for like 10 seconds.
Sure, no worries.
Actually.
No worries.
Cool.
The extension is called GraphQL. I don't know why it's not finding. That's weird.
Yeah, never mind. I'll install it later.
Yep.
That's fine. All right, so here in the default, that's the layout, right? So I can just put here all the code that I have between the body tags again.
Mm-hmm.
All right. except for the scripts. We could add them in the config as well. All right.
And with Vue, if you're a newcomer to Vue, there's one thing you should know about Vue templates. It's because of technical reasons, the way the template work. All templates need to have exactly one root node. This is going to change in Vue 3, and it was implemented differently in Vue 1. But for now, all your Gridsome templates as well need to have, for example, this one div where everything lives. That's one common mistake newcomers make. They try to have several root nodes, which is kind of a pain sometimes, but it's easy to work around.
So here it's fine. We have the diff ID wrapper. So
yeah, and mostly it works 80% of the cases really well. Then the rest you can work around. But that's something one of pet peeves that I have with Vue, and it's going to go away with Vue 3, which is right around the corner.
That's awesome. But this mistake is really easy to find because it always tells you like. Yeah. It's pretty easy to spot. So what do I do here? Is that a children component, or how is that called?
If you want to, what you want to do, basically there are a few ways you can do this, but if we're going to build pages, we would have the pages next. So there's an example in the documentation how it works. I don't actually. I might open one Gridsome project so I can actually remember how it works.
Right. So it's a slot.
Yeah. So it's everything works. Everything in Gridsome is Vue, and again with Vue you would do this with slots. Right. So with Gridsome it's a slot, and for you have pages, and then inside pages you have let me open one project here.
Oh, there's also style here. I don't need that.
I'll open that one.
So here I think that I can remove from the layout, I can remove the static query because we're not querying for any metadata. So we have just template here. We have the slot there. So now,
and then so this index page is if you take a look at where your data comes from the server config. So with Gridsome you have two config files. You have the basic site config, and then you have the server config, which is for your data layer. So here in the server config, actually the upper config, the site config, you can add this server data with two ways. Manually here with inside the config, or in the main config with plugins. And I think we are going to use plugins at this point, so it's the other config, the gridsome.config.js.
Right. So
here it's adding this Kentigo content, which is adding some. It's not here explicitly said now what types it's going to have, but usually you would have like content types. And let me open one project of my own so I can here. Config. So now when we open the empty project, there's no template. So if you look at the documentation for Gridsome templates. I think that's there.
Okay. Oh,
So,
yeah.
So that's I think a bit confusing. It was for me a bit confusing because you have pages and then you have templates. But for each basically content type, you would have a template, and this would be, for example, a blog post or a tag or something like that, and then the page element would have the surroundings of that, and then the individual elements would be these templates. So what we need to do is one template for the pages and then the page element itself.
So this actually, when I figured this out, and it's really you really need to figure this out when you start with Gridsome, because if you want to generate dynamic pages, this is the first thing you will stumble upon. And I actually find it really awesome thing how the static site generator works, because you just define, like for blog post, the blog posts are going to be on this URL, and these are variables, right? So I just define here. Okay, let me do that. So we're doing module export, and we're looking for templates. Yeah. So we're gonna say I don't know, I think it's blog post actually, and we just say that it's gonna be at URL /blog/ and code name.
Yep.
And this is awesome because that's all you need to do, really.
Yeah, and something that really helps you with getting started with Gridsome is to use a starter, some kind of a starter that builds you a ready working site, so you can figure out how it works. It's really easy to get started. When you start with a blank template like we did now, you need to kind of know how it works to build on it. But if you start with a starter, it's really easy to modify it to your needs and get the grips of it, how it works. And there are like for Gatsby, there are like tons of starters out there. So
yeah. So actually, with my other project, I started with the same project that you see right here with the empty starter, and I had to go through all these things in the documentation for the first time without seeing actually ready project, and I still consider it awesome because the documentation is really, it's streamlined so that it shows you only the data that you really need to know.
It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's really great. I have to say that the Vue documentation is as good as Gridsome's documentation. It's really awesome.
At least for me, I don't know why. Maybe because I've used to so different kind of tools. I haven't done pretty much anything with these front end kind of CMS tools ever. So the concepts here were pretty like unknown to me. So I think that was the most hardest part, to get a grip of what's happening and where. And then when I when everything clicked, then it was easy. Then the next hardest part was the GraphQL, but that's easy to work around as well. I did a blog post how to use the same exact GraphQL tool for Gridsome as well. The Gridsome tool shows you only your current schema, but you need to build the queries by hand. If you're a newcomer, it might be a bit difficult. But again, if you are using a starter thing, it's easy to copy and go from there.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I usually use the GraphQL Explorer with Gridsome and also with Gatsby. That really it's just a click-through thing. So just copy it always from there.
Yeah, the only difference between the Gridsome and Gatsby tool is that the Gridsome tool don't let you build the query. So you need to build it by hand. But again, you can use the same exact tool with VS Code with the easy instructions I logged recently.
So the great thing about the templates here is that you can just like you see in the documentation here, you can define a component for that template, but if you actually name it blog post, and that's case sensitive, you don't actually need to define it because it takes the naming convention and looks for the template here in the templates. I thought that that was really cool.
Yeah, there are quite a lot of like convention over configuration in this this tool, and yeah, I like it too. It works well. The downside of it is that it's a bit of magic, and if you want to actually change things, you need to take a look under the hood to make things happen.
Yeah.
But again, for a quick start, it works well.
All right, so let's take a look at that then. Should we do the index first? Maybe we'll do the index first. So it probably is gonna work the same way as Gatsby. So we have the layout here. I'm just gonna remove everything that's in there. And in script, we don't need the script, right? Or how do we do the GraphQL query here?
We add basically a static query here if we want to put it in index. So let me open one in my own project. I think it might have been easier to start with some starter to get those in there.
I think it should be somewhere.
Yeah,
here.
you can do a static query or a page query here as well. So whatever
here, no.
we need, but I think it's easier to what do we wanted to show here the
so
I think the page query is what we want here.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, but I would definitely like to see some example of that. Okay, let me see. Page query. Querying data in page components.
Yes.
Oh, I love this documentation. It's awesome. It's really awesome.
Yeah, that's basically because our schema is pretty much the same here. We can just use the same as we used last time. And yeah, we don't need the script if we don't actually do anything with anything dynamic on the site.
Yeah, so I think that we can use this as well. I'm just gonna copy that over so that we know where to start.
See, that's one thing one of the main things that's kind of put me off Vue is it reminds me a lot of Angular 1.
Yeah, it's true.
With the directives.
There's a lot of Angular 1 in Vue, yeah. Only the good parts, though.
Yeah, I think one of the big advantages for me with React is that whilst you have to learn JSX as a syntax, you're still just working with JavaScript.
Yep.
So if you know JavaScript, you know JSX.
Yeah.
Whereas if I wanted to know how to do like a for loop in this, I'd suddenly have to understand a fair amount of syntax there.
Yeah, you would need to learn V4. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. Again, it depends in what kind of situation you're working with. If you're a developer working just by yourselves, it's really easy to just use JavaScript. Again, if you are in a team that has, for example, UI developers who are not that used to working with JavaScript, it's way easier to teach them Vue syntax than to teach them JavaScript, I think. And the good thing, I've been working with Django, which is a Python web framework, one of the oldest. It was born the same time that Rails was born. And Django has really clear separations between the templating language and the rest of the stuff, and that was pretty clear cut with Rails back in the days, and people got divided between the developers who wanted to put everything in the template like PHP guys would do, and with Django, I quickly learned that the bigger team you have and the more specialized team you have, if you can actually have people working at the same time with the templates and the totally different people working backend code at the same time and not touching the templates, it actually makes the code better. And the restrictions in the templating language are for better and not for worse in many situations. But again, it totally depends in your situation. If you have a flexible team where everybody knows JavaScript, go for it.
Right.
So this Query Explorer is one of my things I don't like in Gridsome because again this is not as good as the one in other tools.
But still, it lets me browse through everything that I have available just when I click Control Space. So it's like IntelliSense, and it lets me find what I'm looking for. So I'm looking for all blog posts, and I can just see what I have available here, right? So I'm looking for edges, node, and I'm looking for data for the main page. So for the index.
If you know what you're doing, it's pretty easy. But for example, when this was my first touch into GraphQL, this was pretty steep learning curve to, for example, this kind of query is super easy, but then if you want to filter stuff and limit stuff and do something a bit more different where there suddenly is no examples, it gets hard.
You know, it starts even when you want to filter something. That already gets hard here. So yeah, you have to know what you're doing. So I'm looking for these things: image, URL, image, and I'm looking for teaser, and I'm looking for title.
But so I'm getting slowly warmed up with GraphQL in image must have selection of subfields.
Yeah, so you're gonna get this a lot because you don't know if that's the end value or if that's something that you should expand more. So
and with the GraphQL, you would have seen it already.
Yeah, that's much better. Yeah, that's true. All right, but this gives me the data, so I can just take it and copy it back into the index page here. So it was query, so let's just keep it as query. And now what I really like is that I can just start working with these things. So we're looking for, for blog post, let's say for items, so to keep it consistent, in page dot, I think we're looking for all blog posts, and dot edges, right?
Yeah.
Edges, yeah. So the key is gonna be item.node.codename. I think that's unique enough. So that's actually an interesting thing. I don't think that this was in React because that was just a simple JavaScript, but in Vue.js you have to provide the key, right?
Yeah, I think React does that behind the scenes.
Okay.
No, you do have to do it explicitly. We didn't do it in the example, but you would have had a console warning about it. Yeah, you need to do key equals and then a unique value for each item in an array.
Okay, that's something that Vue added. I don't know at which point, but I like it to be explicit.
So how do we get the index? I think that there's also index here, right?
Yeah,
like this?
Comma index. Yep.
Right. So I can just use, so I'm just using the colon here that actually lets me use the variables within the attributes.
Yep.
So I can just do this.
Yep.
Or I can, can I do the React syntax as well?
Yes, you can.
Cool. Now that makes me look more professional. Nice.
Okay.
All right. So that should solve the cycle. now I can go ahead and change this, right? So I'm looking item node title, that should work. And here I'm just gonna set the vhtml, right?
Yep.
And that would be item dot node dot teaser.
For new developers here, this is a place where you will shoot yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
So React was way better here. So React, it was saying that, hey, here you are now shooting yourself in the foot potentially. Do note that if you have unclean HTML, if you have, for example, JavaScript coming from there, you will get XSS vulnerability right there. So do sanitize your data before it gets here. Or then use a filter. You can use, for example, in Vue, you can use computer properties and use that instead for printing out the HTML and filter it there if you want to filter it at the component level. But security is something that you need to learn pretty quickly as a youngster as well. So I think it's good to know these things. That's one of the rare occasions you can get fired from these jobs if you fuck up something really well. So
yeah, that's true. All right, I think I get what I was looking for, but the CSS is a bit broken.
Missing. Yeah.
Maybe I forgot something. Let me see. So yeah, I think because we here have only the div and article, so I forgot to put all the wrapping elements around. So I think we're looking for this part.
Yeah, yeah.
And we don't need this div anymore. That's a good thing. And just copy the rest.
Another div and the main.
Yeah. So after article, we're looking for this.
Oh, there was divs. Yep.
Okay. Let's see. There are two divs. Okay, that should be good. Nice. So you see that the hot reload is working quite nicely. Of course, if you change any content in the headless CMS, you have to rebuild. Otherwise, it's not gonna give you the right data. But nice, yeah. So this works. But we still don't. Oh, the URL is wrong. But that's because I forgot to put there. Where is the ref? Here it is. So I forgot to put there the blog /
Oh yeah.
And like that. And we still need to figure out the blog post view template. So we don't have any pages there currently. So do we use I think we can use very similar thing as we have in the index, right?
Yep. It's pretty much the same.
Right.
You do need to use the filtering here though.
Yes. So I'm gonna need help with that. So let me just copy the HTML first. That's gonna be quite easy here. So just one div, one inner. And so do we need to change the query for the filtering stuff?
Let me see.
Yeah, I don't remember this part anymore.
Me neither. I've done exactly one Gridsome site, so
yeah.
I'm not a very good expert here.
So if it's GraphQL, I'm going to assume it's more or less the same as what we did in Gatsby.
Yeah,
yes.
it's pretty much. I'm a bit baffled because I don't find the. Oh, here it is.
You know, the thing is that the Gridsome plugin has a different implementation than the Gatsby plugin. The Gatsby plugin is working strictly with the SDK, while the Gridsome plugin has a little bit different model. So the query is going to be a bit different, but the filtering part is going to be very similar, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm using it. Okay, I built this a little bit different. So if I take a look, I probably have some starters here.
Yeah, we can take a look in the documentation as well. So templates, I think there has to be something here. So these are the templates,
Yeah,
and here,
there probably is, and if you look at the, I think the fastest way is to take the block starter. So
here I already see the query. So there is a parameter for the code name, I assume. So that's on the query level. So I can just put here code name, and that's gonna be string, right?
yeah.
And that actually, I think that I should get the data from the config here. So this should be the same as the query parameter, right?
Yeah, assume it'll be whatever's in the URL.
Yeah. All right. So I should get the code name here. So now the only thing I need to do is to filter the query. Oh, is it really that easy?
Just code name.
That sounds too easy to be true. We have only ID, path, and nullable here. We don't have the code name here.
So if you...
So, wait, code name. Yeah?
What was the one that I'll take a look, one that I know that I have used, so I know how it works. I don't remember its name though. Here it is, Bleda. So there's the repo.
Yeah, I don't know how to filter here. So that's exactly when the GraphQL Explorer from Gatsby comes handy.
Really handy, yeah. Exactly. So
Okay.
I'll post to our Skype chat example from a starter.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the docs, and it looks like you have to do it from all blog posts.
Yeah. So you would do like query and then let me see our Skype.
Right.
So they're in the page query.
Oh, here it is.
So there's the page and
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. So we just need to get all and then filter it. That makes sense, yeah. So we're looking for all blog post. And we want to filter, oh, come on. We want to filter that. And I assume this is just a standard GraphQL. So we're looking for codename to be equal to the codename. Right?
something like that, yeah.
Then we're looking for edges, node, and then whatever we need here. Okay, that gives me nothing because I have no code name here, but let me add there. Where did my website go? Oh, come on. All right, but that should work. Let's assume this is gonna work.
I've got faith.
All right, so let's just put it there. Code name is a string. Okay, I'm just gonna. And I don't need the my query here. All right. So this should give me the right data, and then I just need to output it here, right? So,
yep. So those would be a dollar page, right?
Data, or oh, let me see in the repo. How did they do that? Yeah, so it's a dollar page dot posts, which comes
So
from the query. Yeah.
Yeah, which comes from the query.
All right. So page dot all block post.
Yep.
Dot edges. So we're looking for the first one, right? And for the node and title. Can I assign the variable here somewhere, or?
That's what I was about to ask.
Yeah.
What do you want to assign?
So like I don't so I wouldn't have to write this thing all over the place. Can I just yeah?
Not in the template. So you can do it in the
In script.
if you write script and view. How would you do that? I actually don't know at which point like Gridsome adds the maybe in the mounted hook. So you need to add a view component. If you take a look at the if you can take a look at the repo and the whole export default thing.
Oh, here it is. Yeah.
Remove components, meta info, and
I'll just keep computed. Or do we do the mounted or computed?
You can just we only need to do export defaults and then just add mounted like it's a method or a function actually. So yeah, you can write like that, and then you can say, although you do need to add data, which is not available here, so you would write it because this is a component.
Yeah. Okay.
You would want to.
Oh, we're returning an object right here.
Yep. Let me open a component so I can remember how it goes.
Yeah, I think in components you need to return an empty object from that. So.
Yeah. So now you can do whatever variable you want there and add a. So you want to say what title or what do you want to say node?
Yeah, so this whole thing I want to have available as, so let's say item or something like that.
Yeah, so you would say in the data, you would first initialize empty item.
Right. Like this?
For example, yeah. And then in the mounted, you would say this dot item equals whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool, so then I would just use item.title.
Yep.
All right.
I'm actually not sure at which point Gridsome installs the dot page thingy. So I don't know if we are going in the right order here.
Right. Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see in a moment. Yeah. So we have the title there, image can stay, and item teaser. Okay. So I'll just rebuild that. Yeah, so this takes quite some time, I think.
Yeah, this
compared
is only
to Gatsby. Yeah.
And this is only an empty site. There's nothing there. So if you have, I tried to have a large-ish site with quite a lot of data, so it gets really, really slow, really quick.
Yeah.
Which is not fun.
So 404 not found, but that's. Let me see what
we
that
have probably. Did we have the URL?
/blog/code name.
Yeah. So.
That should be fine.
Do you have your Vue developer tools installed?
Yeah.
So they should pop
Open
up.
dev panel, look for the view panel. Okay.
Yeah.
There it is.
There it is. And now if you try to open the page.
Yeah.
It should.
Oh, you mean you mean the non-existing one?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. It should maybe say something in the. Open the console. Does it?
No, just not found.
Okay, but it doesn't produce any errors either.
No.
So it's just our GraphQL then, probably.
Oh, but the problem is that it maybe strips down the code name.
Oh,
Webs. Yeah, that could be an issue here.
it shortens it.
Yeah, it shortens the
Okay.
URL. Let's check this one.
Okay.
No, but this one also doesn't work.
Yeah, it was like that in Gatsby as well. I think that's done on the content side.
Okay, right.
Interesting.
So why doesn't this
So
work?
what's different? I would try to do it. Page equals page.
Can I find out somewhere how many pages it actually generates?
That's other thing I hate about JavaScript tooling. When you start the tools, they output all kinds of useful things, and then when they get running, they clear all the useful things, even in debug mode. I don't know how to keep the log. So yeah, I don't know.
Well, you could do something like this, right?
You can investigate the.
There you go.
You can open, for example, the Vue Dev Tools, and then you can investigate the in the index page, or I think pretty much anywhere. If you now go on the left side, where's the root and the app, inside the app, there should be. So there's the context things,
which is empty.
Yeah, I don't know where should it be, but they are there.
So in the page we have everything. In the page we have everything, so that shouldn't be a problem. Let me see.
I'm trying to look at the example repo, how they routed the templates, but they only used title here, but then in the
now I got an error here. Cannot read property title of null.
Oh, cool.
Cannot read property title. Okay, so that's much better than the 404. Maybe it just needed to be rebuilt. I don't know why, but now this looks much better. Okay.
Now this error looks much better.
Yeah.
But
so page is not defined. Look at that.
Okay, so I think
this is the issue.
Yeah, we maybe don't try to get it working first with the whole thing.
Okay, let's just gonna put it here, and just remove that for now. Okay, that should be.
I think you've put an extra item in there. Maybe.
Oh, did I?
I think so.
What did I do?
Node.item, unless that's right, but I don't think it is.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, let me refresh this. And let's go to page. So now it's again not found.
I wonder how it goes back and forth. But if you take a look at the example repo, there's something they don't have they only use the index page, but they don't use the filter at all. And I just noticed I don't have the filter myself, so I think it's probably something to do with the page query. So how they how it's filtered. But again, I don't know.
But it worked a while ago, so I got all the nasty errors.
That's true.
So that should be fine. I'm getting some additional errors now. Come on, let me go to that page.
What errors are there?
404 not found.
I was trying to do a post to the GraphQL. for some reason.
Yeah, let me just try it again. So, not found. So now what Gatsby does is, if you have a 404 not found, it actually lists you all the pages in development mode. It lists you all the pages that were generated. So you know where the problem is.
Yeah, and
Quite
in
quickly.
general, I think the stack traces in view-based tools are not very helpful, I think, in general. I'm trying to take a look at examples on projects I have. They're just using differently the GraphQL, but I don't know GraphQL enough to.
Let me check the other project that I used that actually works.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll find an answer.
This is why it's really good to have to start with the working templates, as you can just tweak things to get them running.
So
obviously,
here,
if I would have done more than one Gridsome site, I probably know how this works.
So this is the other query that actually works. Invitee ID. But I'm using
do we have the filter in both of the in our codename program? Yeah, we do.
But how does it know the ID? That's my question. Because when we look here in the Gridsome config, it's using a slug here. So I think we're missing something.
I think that's a bit of magic there. Maybe try changing it to ID here as well in the page query.
Yeah. So ID. Maybe it just gives the page the ID from the headless CMS anyway. So we'd be looking at blog post. And ID is ID. So we don't need this part. Oops. So ID.
Yeah, now
it actually does say that, yeah. Yeah, so in add data to a template in the docs, it says pages generated from the template's configuration will have the node ID available as a query variable in the page query block.
Right. Okay, so that was the piece. Yeah.
It's just magic.
It's just magic, yeah. All right, so this will generate the code name, but we'll still need to figure out the template because this is a different query. So we're looking at page.blogpost. And we don't need to add just a node, and we're just gonna use the title. Page, blog post, and .teaser. Okay, now fingers crossed, guys.
Now it looks at least more similar than
yeah, definitely. Okay, I just I'm just gonna regenerate it. Still not found, guys.
That's unfortunate.
How is it not found? Oh, now I got something. Cannot read property blog post of null. So page seems to... Oh, is it a page data? Let me see. So in here I have a page.no. Page.blog post should be the right thing. But the blog post, is that lowercase or is that uppercase? So blog post should be small.
Post.
Oh, come on. Codename is never used in operation. Yes, I know. Why wouldn't it let me query for that?
Is it?
So the problem is that right now the blog post seems to be null. Why is it null?
Yes, I think it's saying that the dollar page would be null in that case.
Yeah, true.
Which I'm guessing is just because it's a 404, there is no page.
Yeah, so the example repos use it a bit differently. They use the same page container for basically all the time, and then they just they use a component and not the page component. They use a view component to pass it this if you have basically an archive page if you look at the Bleda code.
Oh, which code?
The repo, the Gridsome starter
Bleda.
Okay. So in there you have only an index page.
Mm-hmm.
So you have pages.indexView.
Mm-hmm.
And then for one blog post, you just you use the same exact template, but then you use a component named post item. So in Bleda, you still have the you do have the same let's see, where's the config?
Oh, but look at that. They have the path string here, so they're not using IDs.
Yeah, but they still have in the config they have post templates, and the templates only have title.
Oh, okay.
So
let me see.
So they use basically the same idea, but still that's a bit weird. I think somehow the this Gridsome way of doing it, it's a little bit too much magic.
Yeah. It seems like it. All right. So author/author ID. I think we have that set up correctly. Blog post /blog/code name. Or that's code name. Yeah. But it clearly finds the template. It finds the page. So I don't know what's wrong here, guys.
I mean, I have no idea.
Yeah.
First time I've even seen Gridsome, so.
Because I'm just looking at a template that I that I know works because I have it in a different project, and there I'm just using the $page.invitee, and that's exactly the same. The only thing that's different is that I have this query named, but I don't think that should make any difference. Would be page.blogpost.title. That should work. Page blog post teaser. But the good thing is that now it at least renders the page.
Yeah, I'm a little bit at lost. I don't. There's something I'm not seeing right now.
Yeah, probably. Something we're just not seeing, guys. And it's 3 of us here, so that's not really a good message we're sending out there, but
so documentation wise, it looks like you're doing the right things, but then again, I don't really know the process.
Right.
So I don't know if there is something in here that you're not doing.
I think when we're talking about the documentation, I think again, Gatsby has way better documentation in the sense that you get all these kind of basic things better explained. So the Gridsome documentation is very, how do you say it? Very basic in the sense that you only get the examples that this is how this works and this is how this works, but you don't have these guide type things or tutorial guide things that here. This is the whole flow of this, and it's a little bit wonkily arranged. You need to use the search quite a bit, I've found with Gridsome. But yeah.
All right, guys. I tried the last thing that is a difference between that project and my other project, and that is the /blog in the URL. So now we have the page up and running. So if you go here, that should generate a 404 not found, but this page should be generated, and it isn't.
Okay.
So yeah, we're probably missing. Yeah, we're probably missing something very, very easy and very simple. But as the longer we look at it, the
and I think
gets.
here again, when you're doing these things first time, I think the most difficult challenge for me personally is the GraphQL. So I don't understand enough to be able to easily debug it, because in Gridsome we don't have the GraphQL, which allows you to actually build it the way you need it. I think that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, definitely.
If you go to the GraphQL Explorer, is there something you can query in there that tells you all the pages that were generated? Because in Gatsby there's like all pages.
Yeah, it should. Yeah, if you put that query in, it should query and show the.
Oh, it doesn't work. So let's try it again. I'm not getting any response here. Why am I not getting any response? Oh, here we go. So it claims that it's generated.
It's hyphenate in it. That's why. It's changing all the underscores into hyphens.
Oh, now
it's making it all pretty for you.
Nice, nice. All right.
Which is nice, but also really not nice at the same time.
Wow. Okay, saved by Richard.
So that's the data importer then, right?
Well, I don't know, because codename, if it was from the actual plugin, then codename would be the same in both, because it'd be getting set by the plugin.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah.
So it must be Gridsome doing it.
But that's an easy fix. So if I go back here, codename dot replace.
Well, I think you can do .path on the node. If you query the path out, I think that is the actual path that it uses.
Oh.
So instead of codename, if you were to put
no,
path,
I don't think so. Oh, yeah.
I think that's what it said
like
in.
This?
I think that's what it said in the docs. I mean, obviously you can check in the GraphQL Explorer.
That would be a real magic if that worked. But let's.
I think it. Well, it won't now because you've not included it in your query, I don't think.
Oh, okay.
But if you check the Explorer, because obviously we're going to just.
Yeah, right. I can do that. Yeah.
But
all right.
I think it said it added a path to them.
So if
I might be completely wrong here, but.
all blog post. Total count edges. Node. Path. Wow.
Wait.
Really? You're right. Okay, so we're just gonna do /blog /path, and I don't need the code name anymore then. I just need path here. And we're looking for...
Why does it do that? I'm so dumbfounded.
No idea.
Yeah, but why? I understand the magic, but why? Why would you do something like that?
Okay, all blog posts of null. Now we broke index.view. What did I do wrong? This should work. Item node path. Okay, I'm just gonna, just to be sure, I'm just gonna rebuild that. But yeah, that was again a typo type of mistake.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
And if usually when I get into these kind of situations, I just leave it go for a walk, come back
Yeah.
after 15 minutes, and you see it immediately.
Oh, and see, we already have the blog in there, so now I have it there twice. So I've just fixed that. So it actually that's actually the path from the config.
It's from the template declaration.
So it's from this.
The whole thing.
So it's really Gridsome doing that. That's interesting. So if I go here,
But is it
Wow.
changing the? Why is it changing the slot? Like, is it filtering it somehow? Like, is the original data has underscores, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess hyphenated is like the kind of more standardized URL structure. So I guess it's
Yeah.
just doing that for you, which is useful, but it's the fact that it
No,
doesn't
it's
tell
not.
you
That's-
anywhere that it's doing.
That's annoying as fuck.
And that's definitely Gridsome doing that, because the path is
That's
definitely
weird.
coming from here.
Yeah, I think the problem is it doesn't tell you. Like if
Yeah.
it told you that
Exactly.
that's
Yeah.
actually did, it'd be fine. But
Interesting.
Cool,
Okay.
but we got that working. So you see the pages are generated.
Mhm.
Everything is working nice. It's just like with Gatsby. Although we spent
Little
quite
bit
a lot
easier
of time.
with Gatsby though.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we got it done. If it wasn't for the path issue, and that's just an experience, guys. If it wasn't for the path
That's
issue,
true, but
yeah.
again, this is like I said, I've been working with Django for
Mhm.
literally 20 years or 15 years now. In Python community, everything magic is considered very bad, and this is exactly why.
Yeah.
So I don't generally like very much tools that does things magically. So if we explicitly say something, it's really easy for especially beginners to figure out where it comes from, or if you use search or stuff like that. So
yeah,
Again.
I think when it comes to kind of things that are like kind of magic or things that are done by convention, it's absolutely fine as long as the debugging tools are there and provide you with the
That's
information
true.
you need at the right time.
Yeah.
And if
like
it's
this for
documented
me,
well.
yeah, this for me was a failure of the fact that that 404 page tells you nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even the documentation, I'm really dumb for like why would you do something like that? Like, and at which points are you like changing the data and why? That's weird.
Yeah, I agree, because if Gridsome didn't do it, then every developer has their option to do that if they want. Yeah. So, but anyway, we got it working. We have both websites in Gatsby, Gridsome, so I think that's a nice achievement. And I think that stumbling up on this issue, we're not the first ones, and we're definitely not the last ones to experience this. So
There's actually documentation in Gridsome. Gridsome templates, it says that path parameters are slugified by default, but the original value can be used by adding a under raw suffix, e.g. Colon title under raw. Okay.
Yeah.
Slugified by default.
I read
That's
over
right.
that. I read over that paragraph about 3 times. It didn't actually register what it was saying.
Oh, we got a newcomer, Lime Gold. Hello. Hello to you too. But you're coming to an end, actually. But thanks for joining anyway.
Liam
What-
is actually one of my colleagues.
Nice. So guys, do you have any last advice that you would give to beginners? What to do when they want to start looking into JavaScript frameworks, into SSGs, into Jamstack?
Read the documentation more clearly than we did.
I think that's actually a really good lesson to learn here. That, like I said in the beginning, the documentation is really important. And if you have a product or project that has poor documentation, working with it is really painful.
Yeah.
So, read the docs.
Cool. So thank you both for joining. This was a really long session. Thanks for staying. I assumed it's gonna take 1.5 hours. We're over 3 hours marker. So thanks for sticking by. I think it has a real value in it. So I'll be posting that to YouTube. Thank you to all of you guys who were watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Well, bye.
Cheers. Bye bye.